Hello everyone, I am Dr. Andeline and I will be talking to you about microteaching. Microteaching is a scaled down teaching wherein the teacher trainee breaks down the complete teaching process into smaller units. By doing so, the teacher trainee develops a lot of skills as well as confidence along with the corrections so that she can get a better output. Now, being a fresher, and if you're asked to deliver a lesson at one stretch, it will be very challenging, very difficult, and as a result, it would even demotivate the teacher trainee. So, therefore, the micro teaching concept was introduced, wherein the young teacher trainee is introduced to a scaled down teaching, meaning she would teach the unit in small bits so that she can take a break and in the process, she will develop her skills. Now, let us look at the steps in micro teaching. These are the steps in micro teaching. This is step number 1. Step 1, where the teacher trainee has to plan. What is she going to plan? She's going to plan whether she's going to do a prose lesson or a poetry lesson or something in science, something in social science or math. It's up to her to first decide on the subject, then decide on the topic. For example, if she's going to do a lesson or a poem in English, if she's going to do the Daffodils poem, she freezes on the subject, she freezes on the topic. So the topic is daffodils. Now, what the teacher trainee should really do in this planning session is she should sit down and pretend to be a child herself, first and foremost, to understand from the level of a child. How can I teach about the poem Daffodil to a set of children? What are the type of activities I can use? What are the types of questions? What are the types of pictures? How do I relate the daffodil to the student's life? So these type of basic questioning should come to the teacher's mind. She should have a notepad where she keeps writing down as she gets ideas. The teacher has to have a letter pad and keep noting down whatever ideas come to her mind. Because this teaching process is going to be something precious, and within those few minutes, she has to deliver a beautiful concept about the daffodils. So, in the planning process, the teacher works very systematically and designs as the moment she enters the class, as how she's going to greet her children. Is it going to be good morning, children, God bless you, or good morning, little ones? You know, you can add your own tags right from the good morning up to the end of the session, what she's going to do. So, she has to have a well-defined plan here. After the planning is done, and of course, you have to prepare the teaching aids as well. You go on to the second step, which is teaching, and this has to be done for 6 minutes. 6 minutes is just a recommendation because the teacher trainee is a beginner, and if he's given a lot of time to do, that would result in a lot of embarrassment or fear. So we just on 6 minutes, which is quite sufficient for a trainee to develop the skill of teaching. Now, there are various skills which I'll be teaching, which I'll be sharing with you in my next session. But right now, we are looking at the skill of motivation. It is otherwise called the skill of introduction. Now, in this phase, the time limit is 6 minutes, wherein the teacher will teach the group of children and tell them about the concept. In my example, we would like to teach about the daffodils. So, in this process, the children are just the peer group or the friends of the teacher trainee herself, and there will be one teacher who will not engage in the activity, but who would be sitting behind and observing the complete session, which includes the reaction of the students as well as the reaction of the teacher. The process starts where the teacher trainee delivers the concept, and after 6 minutes, the session comes to a close. The teacher trainee obtains feedback from the teacher who was just engaged in observing, as well as she collects the feedback from her peer group. And the teacher is also, the trainee is also requested to engage in self-reflection. Did I teach well? Did I introduce the concept well? Did my students respond well? Was the session useful to them? Did I contribute something valuable to the society? These kind of introspection should happen in the teacher's mind. So now, with all this, the feedback is developed. Feedback from the peer group, feedback from the teacher observer, feedback from the teacher trainee herself. So having these three feedback, there is a lot of reflection that happens. Like for example, the teacher might have been too fast, the teacher might have been very cruel, or would have been very angry to a particular student, or very aggressive to a particular student's response, or the teacher was not very audible, or the teacher was overlapping concepts. There could be any kind of negativity or any kind of comments that has come, but the teacher trainee should not take this as a personal note, but instead should choose to work on the valuable feedback. So after obtaining the feedback, the next work would be to replan the lesson. Now here they are recommending 12 minutes. It's up to us to take a little extra time so that we do not make the same mistakes over and over again. So 12 minutes is recommended just as a formality so that we don't overdo ourselves or we don't do less. Now when you replan, we have to keep the three feedback in mind and then replan the same lesson for the same set of audience. So the teacher trainee can actually think, when I asked this question, the students were not excited. Should I change this question? Or when I did this activity, the students were not willing to participate. So should I change this? The teacher has to work on her own thought process. So that helps her to replan the lesson. And then we go to the next concept, the next step, which is called the reteach, where the teacher teaches the same thing to the same set of audience where the same teacher is observing. And after the unit is taught, again, re-feedback is obtained. Now, in the whole process of micro-teaching, this re-feedback and the feedback are actually very, very important because they actually give a map. They give a guideline to the teacher trainee to understand where she stands in this particular teaching process. Because if she's got the feedback from this particular group at this stage, and if she's getting the same feedback in the re-feedback session, it means that her process is not successful. The negative feedbacks obtained here should be lesser seen here or not seen at all. That is a sign of growth. That is a sign that the teacher trainee is progressing to be a good teacher. So in this two areas, we should not take the comments to be very personal. We should have the teacher trainee should have a broad mind and accept, because it's very rare these days where somebody could correct us, where we could learn from our mistakes. So we should not develop any ego on that, but instead choose to work by balancing the recommendations or the feedback given by the peer group and the teacher observer herself. So this is the cycle of micro-teaching, and this is helpful for teacher trainees and for teachers who have taken up teaching but do not have a teaching degree. So by doing this micro-teaching over and over again to smaller group of children or smaller group of teachers, they can develop a lot of skills.